What is up, everybody? Hey, I am very excited to be here with you guys tonight. My name is Joel. I am from the Berks campus, and we're actually just jumping in and getting started with something called HSM Talk. So this is one of our very first, not one of our very first, actually the very first HSM Talk that we're doing, and we're just opening up the conversations of what we're going to be talking through at HSM over the month of January. So tonight happens to be all about fear. And I have some very cool guests that I have invited here to be a part of this wonderful conversation all about how afraid we actually are. But let me introduce them real quick. Ryan Johns, can you say hello to the people?
Hello to the people.
Thank you. Cut, print, that is a wrap. There we go. Next on the list is Chelsea Dalbero from the Lebanon campus.
What's up, everybody?
There we go. And finally, we have Jordan the Sandoval from the York campus.
Hello.
Wow, that was very nice. That was very nice. It seemed kind. I appreciated that. So yeah, I just want to jump right in, and I would love to encourage you guys as you have questions throughout this whole conversation that we do, or if anything comes into your mind, just throw it in the chat. I'll do my best to look between the chat and Zoom and the camera and respond to you guys, but we want to hear your input, we want to hear your questions, and so we're just going to kick it off, and I feel like the best way to kick this off, guys, is to talk about our irrational fears. And so that is what we're going to start with. Does anyone have like one right off the cuff that you want to go first? Irrational fears.
I think we can start just before we hopped on. We were talking about our irrational fear of the dark. Because
very true.
Yeah, it's not. Jordan brought that up. Jordan, you want to talk about it?
No, so it's just like the idea of sometimes just being in complete darkness. Normally outside is just so scary to me. And then to toss that in there, I think it's because sometimes in our house we have those little centipedes that run about 1,000,000 miles per hour. And I'm just real scared of them for no genuine reason. But they're just kind of really creepy looking, so.
You know what the worst part about them is my wife makes me squish them, and you can feel them when they squish.
They keep living. They don't die.
And they switch. Okay, I switch mine. It's not the dark. It's those centipedes.
So you're changing your irrational fear from the dark to centipedes.
Yes, I've just had a life realization just now.
Good. At my house, Maria asks me to try to like keep things alive and get them out of the house. So I feel like half the time I like try to pick it up with like a napkin. I either end up killing it or it ends up just going on me somehow and I lose it. So it's not my favorite thing, but I would say my irrational fear is probably bees.
Bees?
Yeah, I don't do bees, man. I'm not a bee guy. I like the honey. Honey is good, but I've been stung like a ridiculous amount of times. Like you'd be surprised. Like I feel like bordering on like 40 to 45 times. Bees just find me, and I don't know what it is about my beautiful skin, but they cannot wait to just murder it. And
now, are we talking just bees? Are we talking yellow jackets, wasps, like all stinging insects?
All stinging insects. I don't even know. Like, if it was just bees, they would die. They die after they sting you, right? So it can't just be that. I was at a baseball game once, and I got stung 3 times on the back of my neck at the same time. Like, there was like a cluster of them. So it was, I don't do bees, man. I'm done getting stung. No thank you. But bring on the honey because honey is delicious.
I don't think Chelsea actually shared her irrational fear. I think Joel named a fear for her forever ago, but.
Oh, wait, yeah. What is your fear?
So, I mean, I have a lot. There's a lot of them. So I agree with you on all the small insects and small animals. At Lebanon, we get bats that randomly fly around that we have to catch in the middle of gatherings and anything, or they're just dead laying around, which is not fun. Mice, we get that too. Those aren't fun. But I have a stupid irrational fear that, and this is ridiculous, but that I'm going to run out of food. And I have a lot of food, and I would be okay if I ran out of food for a couple days. I got some extra, it's fine. But I'm just terrified. So like I am a food hoarder for sure, that my cabinets are full, my desk is full, like no matter where I go, I pretty much have something because God forbid I go an hour if I'm hungry without having a snack. I don't know.
So like walking into Target during the coronavirus and seeing the empty shelves, does that give you
That was
anxiety? Oh, you were the one taking all the stuff.
It was all me.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And then Marianne the other day. Oh, Barry and Marianne. God love them. They're some of my favorite elderly couple that go to our church and serve in student ministry. She told me I need to get pasta because this new wave of corona their pasta was going to be gone. I'm like, great. I already had this irrational fear.
Yeah. So
I got a lot of I don't eat pasta. I got a lot of it.
Hold on. Rewind. COVID is infecting pasta?
Yes, apparently. That's what Marianne told me. So I got the cans. I got pasta. I got it all.
I'm sorry. You got cans of pasta?
Yeah. Well, no, like cans of anything. Because they don't go bad.
Okay. I was just very concerned for a second.
Too. I don't eat it, but
did not know they
got
canned.
Ramen, I have had that for like 4 years. And
your mouth problem and your mouse fear all make sense right now.
Because
I you.
It's so true.
Yeah.
You don't like the mice because the mice take your food.
That's it. Oh my gosh, that's totally it.
It all
connects. Gosh, one time, this was terrible. I almost vomited. When I worked at Ephrata, any Ephrata people in the house? Maybe. We were in the leader lounge. Me and Ashley were eating some salt and vinegar chips in the leader space. Me and Ashley are like, we love salt and vinegar chips. So we're going to town on them. All of a sudden, I look at the bag and there's holes like chewed through. I screamed and I was like, I've been eating these. I've been eating them. And there's poop.
Oh.
I looked in the leader space. It chewed through. There's like this velvet like curtain thing in the back. A mouse chewed through that. Then chewed through the salt and vinegar chips, and then I ate them, and it was really bad.
That's disgusting.
It was so bad.
Would you say they had a velvety texture?
No, curtain.
Oh.
That it ate through. It was so bad. Oh my gosh, I can't. I'm getting sick now just thinking about it.
At least you didn't find it in the bag when you were eating them. Can you imagine?
So I had a mouse problem at my house where there was a mouse running around and I couldn't find it, and then our oven started smoking weirdly. So when I pulled my oven out from the wall, these two like electrodes in the back of the oven, there was a mouse laying on top of them that was quite fried.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's who needs mouse traps? Just get the shock going.
Yeah.
I think one of my kind of funny irrational fears is I am very afraid of heights.
Okay.
And being probably the tallest person in student ministry is ironic, but I do not do heights at all. And
like hiking?
No, but like every once in a while I'll look down and be like, my head's pretty far away from the ground. But not in a fearful way. That's an
so
awkward
funny
statement. So yeah, heights.
Heights.
I'm afraid of them.
Good to know. Ben Titman, to answer your question, no, I am not allergic. I just do not like to get stung. That's all.
Ben Titman, shout out. What a guy.
Shout out to Benjamin, yes. All right. Now the next question is there a difference, or is there even a thing, such as good fear and bad fear? Good fear versus bad fear. Is there any type of good fear? Is it only bad fear? What are the types? Things of that nature.
Totally is. Because, if you're standing on a cliff, you should be afraid that you don't fall off of it. That's a good fear. But if you're walking into a room of people, being terrified to do that is not necessarily a good fear. But life and death fear is good. That's healthy. That what makes us not do stupid things like jump off cliffs or run into traffic or whatever that looks like. So I think there are healthy fears and unhealthy fears, irrational fears.
So you would use unhealthy and healthy versus good and bad?
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I like that too. I was kind of under the same thing. Like good and bad, like I don't know how I feel about that, but healthy and unhealthy definitely makes more sense. And I think kind of where I went to is the fear itself may not be healthy or unhealthy, but I think where our response to that fear can be healthy or unhealthy. So like I can have, like you talked about being in a crowd of people, I can have a healthy fear of that, but then it gives me the courage and I address that fear, or I can never leave my house because I'm afraid of people.
Right.
Be unhealthy with it. So I feel like our response to fear is more important than the fear itself, maybe.
Wow, it sounded a little like JFK there. I like it.
I would echo that. Just as I think about it, for me, when I think about fears stop me from doing something that is, I don't want to say dumb, but maybe that's the best way to say it, or that I'll regret. Like, the fear of the hot oven stops me from putting my hand on it.
Right.
To be blunt. But then also...
The mouse didn't have that fear, so
no,
example right there.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
But when I think about it, though, for me, like, I struggle with anxiety. And so I border on when does fear turn on to anxiety. And so then I can say I have a fear of rejection. And so I want to make sure that people like me, but that can quickly turn into an anxiety of I want to make sure I'm liked by everyone.
Right. That's tough. And I feel like there's a fine line there that you have to figure out, when it turns to what. Because, obviously I would say it's intelligent, it's smart to not just like open yourself up to every single person that you meet in hopes that like they don't tear you down at all. But then, that could turn into always being closed off and never doing that. And so it's like, where's the line when it comes to that? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Something I struggle with anxiety also, and something my therapist said a while ago was anxiety is like the body's physical and biological response to fear and stress. And so it's that kind of that step when it goes, just beyond thoughts and starts affecting you physically and emotionally.
And what's core, and you just point out, like, I think there's a difference between stress, there's a difference between fear, there's a difference between anxiety that is, hey, I'm anxious about my test, and there's anxiety that, kind of what I was sharing, where, hey, I probably need to talk to someone about it because it's now 4 o'clock in the morning, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up every hour, what's keeping me up? And it's been happening for 2 months. Like, that was for me when I talk about anxiety.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there fears that you guys have like pushed through, and when you made it to the other side, like it felt really good just to be there?
Fears that we've pushed through.
Like, I'm just thinking easy example, like when I was middle school, hated roller coasters, did not do roller coasters. I was that kid that was like, why don't you guys go on and I'll hold the popcorn? Like, it wasn't about them. Went on a couple, and now as an adult, like I can't stop going on roller coasters. It's the most fun I've ever had. So like, not necessarily like super serious like fears that we all should definitely have, but like, what is a fear that you had once that, when you overcame it or when you conquered it or when you got through it, it was better on the other side?
I can't relate to the roller coaster one because I'm still the kid holding the popcorn. There's a really great picture of us from Hershey Park last summer going on the coal cracker where my 2-year-old daughter's having a great time and I'm terrified holding on to the sides of the boat.
Well, as large men too, I feel like we can relate in the fact that every time I look at those tiny little boxes that I have to sit in, I wonder, like, did they think about me when they built this? Probably not. I don't know.
I have a lot of inertia.
That's right.
I swear, my first job was at Hershey Park.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Me too.
And
What?
you know that the straps barely fit on you, then you're thinking, oh my gosh, did they think of me? I'm going to fly out of this thing because I'm barely held in.
It's very true.
So...
Quick story, my best friend growing up also hated roller coasters. High school, I started to like them, and like Great Bear was an awesome ride at Hershey Park, and that was gonna be his first roller coaster. And how I got him in line was I told him that it only had like one hill, and you go around a couple of turns, and then it's done. He sits in the chair. We're ascending to the top of the hill. And I was like, you also might go upside down a couple times and there's a few loops. And he goes, I hate you. But we're still friends, so it's okay. I just really wanted him to go on the Great Bear with me.
See, my thing with so I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with roller coasters. Like, I really like the Great Bear, but here's the thing, Jordan, don't give me that look. It's the line that is the problem now, because I've spent so much of my life fearing roller coasters that I still have all the anxious feelings while I'm waiting in line. So if it's a long line, I'm not going through half an hour of being anxious to have 2 minutes of fun. But if I go and there's nobody in line and I can just hop on, I can do that. But
that's fair.
Yeah, so don't take me to Hershey Park when it's busy.
The Cole Cracker had a really long line that day.
It did, and I didn't like it.
As former employees of Hershey Park, can you still get discounts on candy?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Candy
Moving on.
Is your question, Joel?
That was something that I just needed answered for my own peace of mind, but we're good now. All right, next question. Where does fear come from? And it can be multiple places, but where does fear come from?
So this one, I listened to a really great sermon by Andy Stanley a few months ago about fear that was really eye-opening to me. And he really talked about the root of fear. And so he talked, because the premise of his sermon was so often we ask for our fear to be taken away and that we don't want to fear. And the premise of his sermon was that that's not a good idea, because fear comes from our creativity. It's our ability to picture a future and is rooted in us being made in the image of God. So because God's a creator and we're made in his image, we have creativity and the ability to see into the future. And so to take away our fear, and the root of our fear would be to take away our creativity and our ability to imagine something, imagine the future, imagine what's coming. Because that's really, when you think about fear, it's thinking about the what ifs, like what could happen in the future.
That's good.
It's cool. I never thought of it that way. One thing that I was thinking of is that fear is not from God, because there's no fear in God. He does not give us a spirit of fear, but power and love and a sound mind. What comes from God is peace. It's stability. Fear comes, I think, from our sinful fleshly nature, and like the imagination, the what ifs, as our mind goes spiraling off into the abyss of anxiousness or whatever that looks like. But it's definitely one of those healthy feelings that God gives us, those emotions that God gives us. He gives us anger. He gives us sadness. He gives us all of these things. And so he's created those things in us, but he doesn't cause that fear to happen. Yeah.
That's good.
I like how you said that. I think often when we look at our relationship with God, we get that mixed up about the things that he gives us the ability to feel, and the things that he makes us feel, or that he instills in us, or the Holy Spirit working in us, and what that looks and feels like.
Right, because if we didn't have the healthy portions of those, we would be sticking our hands in the ovens, or we would be, doing stupid, reckless, dangerous things.
Right.
If we weren't given that feeling of fear of like, oh, this isn't safe, this isn't right, this isn't healthy, or oh, I shouldn't go down that path because that'll lead to destruction or poor choices or whatever that looks like. But being terrified of the future, being terrified to walk into a crowded room of people, those are the things that, those anxieties that Jordan, you were talking about, and Ryan, you too. I have anxiety too, that can be debilitating at times. But that's not what God gives us. He gives us that peace, that love, that comfort, that freedom, that power through that. But are innately within us, we have all of those things, and they're all good in their own healthy ways. It's when they get off that they're not healthy and productive.
I think recognizing.
This wasn't a Chelsea talk for the entire evening.
Reverend Dalbero, thank you for joining us. I think recognizing that it isn't God as well when you're in the fear is something that was huge for me. Just understanding like God is still here, even though I am afraid, and no matter what, he will never leave me. Like that was just a huge, meant just to even say that out loud in the moment. was just a huge mental shift for my brain to understand, like, hey, you're going to get through this. God is here with you. Do you think he would just leave you right when you're afraid? Like, no, of course not. He's going to be here the entire time. So just encouragement from the fact that we have a Lord who is all-knowing, who is always with us, and who has the power to conquer anything that could come our way. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we need to touch the stove because God will cure us. He also gave us a brain to not be stupid. Also, I'm pretty sure that it's a condition, like, I don't know if you're born with it or something, but, like, I feel like there are people who don't fear, who, like, are born without the capacity to fear.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that before.
They don't feel pain.
Is that what it is? Okay.
It's the one football coaches. See, I know so much about football, guys. I'm a real expert about this.
Whoa.
My husband would be so angry if he's watching this right now. There's some football coach that's, like, real awesome, and his son has it.
Okay.
Great description, right, Ryan?
No, that was great. It's that guy's son, and then his second cousin.
For all I know, he's a basketball coach. That's how bad this is.
Lindsay had a cool comment on the chat. She said, anxiety can be a blessing in disguise sometimes because it helps her be more empathetic with others. And she's gained wisdom from that, which is cool.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's when I've found, like, the things that I consider fears and weaknesses, or things that I feel shame about in myself, like, they've, as I've given them up to God and turned them, like, work to turn them to fears and things that I feel weak in, but turn them an understanding that they're things that God has strengthened. I've found, like, as I've gone through that process, I found more people to connect with, and to be able to have that moment where you say, me too, I struggle with that too. That's a hard thing for me too, but it's okay. And God has us. And what I like about what you said too, Joel, earlier, just about God not leaving us, is that idea of fear being the ability to picture the future. Is we can picture the future of the what ifs, and our kind of broken, fearful nature can go to the what if this crap happens. But knowing we have a God and who our God is, we also have the ability to say, like, hey, I can see how God came through for me in the past, so I can imagine how he's going to come through for me in the future. Like, what if he did something really cool? What if, like, this isn't a problem at all? What if the best case scenario happened?
That's good.
Which is also a gift that God gives to us that I don't think we practice enough.
Yeah,
I love that, and that helps dispel fear. And it reminds me of a personal story. Like, I remember one time I was just driving in my car, and it was, like, at sunset, and I was coming over a hill, and I was terrified of, like, the future. It was, like, right before I got a job here at LCBC and had to move, and I was so scared because, like, I finally got into a place of, like, comfort in my life again after going through a lot of pain, a lot of loss, a lot of heartache. And I remember just, like, talking to God and be like, God, I am so scared. I'm scared of getting hurt again. I'm scared of going through anything hard again. Like, I don't want to do that. And then I remember so clearly that the sun was setting, but it shone so bright in my eyes that it, like, almost blinded me. And he says, have I not carried you this far? And I was, like, taken aback. Like, it was like I heard him so clear as day. He's like, have I not carried you this far? Do you think I'm going to leave you again? And I was like, dang, like, you're right. I'm sorry. I know you're going to carry me through whatever comes. You're right. I don't need to be afraid. Is it going to be hard sometimes? Yeah. Am I going to go through more pain or more whatever? Yeah, probably. But it was such an amazing reminder for him to say, I've carried you before, and I've gotten you to today. I'm going to carry you through tomorrow. Like, remember, I haven't left you. It's like, oh, dang, you're right. Yeah, you have. And it just gives so much confidence and dispels that fear, because it's like, okay, I'm going to be okay no matter what, because I know God's going to carry me like he did before. And it helps us to be able to just, at least me personally, like, breathe through the fear and lean in and just trust that God's going to carry it. Like, he's going to take care of it. He's going to be there every step of the way, even when it's hard, because it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And it's like one of my favorite verses, John 16:33, it says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. And it's like, oh man, like, we are promised hardship. We are promised things to go bad and things, like, valid fears to come up and things to be afraid of. But God's already overcome it. He's already taken care of it. He's already on the other side of it. And he's going to carry you through it. And it just helps you not be afraid and just rest in his hands, knowing like, oh, my God's got this. And it might suck sometimes, but I'm going to be okay no matter what, because he's there.
Yeah.
That helps me dispel my fear, because I'm afraid of a lot, and that just really helps.
And you touched on this a little bit with what you said, Chelsea, but a question from the chat is, to what degree is a fear a product of our own desire to ourselves versus God protecting us? That's a deep question right there.
That's good.
So I'll give you guys a little bit to think about that. To what
Can you repeat
degree?
that again?
Yeah. To what degree is a fear a product of our own desire to protect ourselves versus God protecting us? I think what this person is saying, and they can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but it almost seems like it reminds me of. Now I'm not going to remember where this is at. When God is talking about how, Solomon and all his wealth and even the flowers in the field are taken care of. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where is that at? I cannot remember.
It's in, I actually pulled that up for tonight because I was thinking about that. It's
snap.
in Matthew 6.
Yeah.
So it's Matthew 6, 25 to 34.
And so why are we worrying about, what we're going to eat, what we're going to drink, all that, when God takes care of even the flowers in the field that are here today and gone tomorrow?
Right. He talks about the birds. The birds aren't farmers, but they still have food to eat. He talks about the flowers, how he doesn't clothe them, but they're more beautiful than. He talks about Solomon, who was like a swanky king with, I don't know, what are the
swanky?
The chains, the ice. What are the kids calling it these days?
Turtleneck sweater.
The drip.
The
Is
drip.
that a thing?
I hope not.
Is drip a thing? I don't know. You looked real cool, guys.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say.
But yeah, I love, so it ends at the end of the chapter, verse 34 ends with, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And just saying about, hey, today might be hard, but that's okay. Don't worry about what's coming up next.
Right.
Because God is the same God today, tomorrow, and always.
Don't create unnecessary fear when you're trying to provide for yourself, protect yourself, get yourself to where you think you need to be, but actually allow God to step into your life and do that for you, which is actually tying into what David was talking about this morning on Adult Church, LCBC Church Online, during the gathering today, where he was just saying, are we going to allow God to change us? Because when we do it, it works for a couple weeks, and then, it seems to fade out. But when we let God do it, that's what lasts forever. So, all right, let's head to another question. When it comes to following Jesus, do you have any fear? Is there anything holding you back from fully following him?
See, you use the term holding back, and I would say I've got fear possibly, but it's not holding me back. I would say they're different things.
Okay.
I would say sometimes fear allows me to question something, and so it depends how I handle that fear. The same way that you might have a fear of public speaking or a fear of roller coasters, how are you going to handle that? And so for me, I might have a fear where I might go, what happens in eternity? What happens after I die? I need to look into that more now. I might not get an answer. I'm not going to. Let's be honest. I'm not going to get a very black and white, 100% certainty. I'm going to get the answer that I'm going to find in the Bible that's true, and I'm going to believe it's true, but there's also going to be trust in that. And everything we've talked about tonight comes with trust. And so I think for me, that's where I go, okay, fear leads me to question, which leads me to learn more about who God is and what God's plan is for me. What God's plan is for eternity, what it is for now, why he says what he says. And then it leads me to say, I probably need to trust God more as I've learned more. It doesn't lead me to doubt him more because I choose to handle it that way.
That's good.
Yeah, that's cool. I know for me, I feel like my fears hold me back from fully following God and what he's called me to do. For example, there was one time, I think it was 3 years ago, when I felt like I was actually at GLS and I felt like God was telling me, go talk to this chick. She had tattoos all over her face, everywhere. And I got a lot of tattoos too, but I had definitely social anxiety God was like, go talk to her, go say hi to her. And I was like, no, she's going to think I'm weird. And I can't, what am I going to say? Like, I can't just walk up to her and be like, hi, I'm Chelsea. Do you want to be my friend? Like, no, I can't do that. And so I just felt so uncomfortable. I was like, I can't do that, God. I can't do that. But like, I know he was like, no, just go talk to her. And I didn't do it. And I think back of like, man, like, why didn't I do that? Like, it's so dumb to put my own comfort at like in jeopardy to go potentially have a conversation with somebody that could lead to life change, or that could lead to her feeling loved, or somebody else feeling seen, or somebody else feeling known. And I know that I've let my fears of feeling like somebody's going to think I'm weird, or they're not going to like me, or I'm not going to be good enough, or I'm not going to say the right thing. I let those fears hold me back from what God is calling me to do. And that's not fully following him the way he wants me to, because I'm putting my comfort before his will for me. And that sucks when I stand on the other side of that and I'm like, oh man, like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I know it's stupid. And then I beat myself up about it, but which doesn't help. So don't do that. But I've definitely let my fears hold me back from doing just little stuff that he's like, go love on this person, go pay for that person behind you at the grocery store, or whatever, that looks like. I definitely let that happen.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely like what you said, that idea, that fear of not being enough, not being personable enough, knowing and knowledgeable enough, eloquent enough to be able to talk to somebody about not being cute enough. Like, that dog's adorable.
Lola.
Hi, Lola. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I've never had a problem with not being cute enough.
I knew something like that was coming.
Joel, you're just mad that you didn't think of it first.
That's fair.
Joel, you've always been cute enough. But yeah, that idea of just not being enough, and I even know, so like stepping into this job on staff at LCBC was a huge just shift for me, because I think most of my life I was raised in the church. And we've talked about this before, about that idea of believing in Jesus and accepting him as your forever friend. But I never really took that step into fully following him. Like, I really kind of kept control of my life, of what I thought was best for me, or what I thought I needed to do. And stepping into this job, or just the steps that even took me here, was really like a painstaking process of letting go of control of the what ifs, and letting God just have my trust in him, that what he wants for me is better than what my plan for myself. And I even remember in one of my final interviews, I was sitting with our head of HR, and it's a lovely gentleman, you guys all know him, and in this very sweet way, he was just like, so what are you afraid of with this job? And I was like, oh my goodness, where do I even begin? But what I said is, I don't know if this is where God's calling me. Like, I think it is, but I'm not sure. But I'm like, either it is where he's calling me and I'll be successful, and I know there's a whole bunch of people in the Bible that didn't feel like they were called or equipped, but they were, and they did God's work. And so I'm like, maybe that'll be me, or I'll fail miserably. And that is terrifying to me. And even now, just that idea of being enough, and especially working in ministry, like the stakes feel so high. Like, if I offend somebody, if I don't say something right, I could cause somebody to step away from their faith, step away from the church. And that's what happened to me. I was church hurt, and I stepped away from the church and my faith for a number of years, and I thankfully came back. But I'm just, there's always that fear of doing that to someone else. And I think that's also a fear that holds a lot of people back from sharing their faith with others, is that fear of not being enough. And therefore, you're going to push somebody farther away rather than bring them towards Jesus.
Ryan, I never knew that was part of your story.
Which part?
Just the part of being church hurt.
Yeah, it was. And so that's like, I really, like, when I give my messages, like, I really think through, like, and so for me, a lot of what it was is I had a religion, I had a way of working in church, but I didn't have a faith. I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus. And so that's really, for me, I think what held me back from the trust piece is I didn't have a relationship. I had a set of ideals, a set of morals, a set of ways to live, but not the relationship piece. I think as part of that question is, if you feel like you're not trusting, you're not able to take that step, really look at what does your actual relationship look like with Jesus, versus do you feel like you're just doing what the Bible says you're supposed to do?
That's good. I feel like we're cultivating a culture of people who don't feel like they're good enough. I feel like that's a common theme. My own life, and I feel like a lot of students that I've had conversations with, like just that feeling of, am I good enough? Have I made it? Do they like me? Am I, fill in the blanks? And I think, we do this to ourselves too. We now live in a place where there's no winners and losers. It's either everybody does well and everybody gets this trophy, or there's no alternative. That's what it is. And so we grow up we get A's, and if we don't get A's, we figure out how to get A's, and we go back and we do it. There's no like harsh punishment type things in schools anymore, I feel like. And so we try to live in the good as much as possible, so that the moment things get even a little bit bad, and even if it's not a big deal, and this is, again, for me, like the moment things get just a little bit bad, I'm like, the sky is falling. Of course I did this wrong. I can't believe I didn't do this right. So dumb. Like you go to that unhealthy spot of like, of course I'm not good enough. Like I didn't measure up again. Like I can't, like this happens to me all the time. And it's something that we need to be careful of, because you're gonna have to have tough conversations. You're gonna mess up with your friends. You're gonna say something stupid. You're gonna tick off your mom or your dad. You're going to accidentally back into another car of a person. You're going to, and go down the line, but the world is not ending. You are perfect, like you are enough. Because Jesus made us enough. You are enough because we have Jesus, and Jesus is enough. But and
I think,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think there's an aspect of that. This is actually a conversation my wife and I were just having today. And I don't know if it's necessarily kind of a Christian church aspect, but we have a tendency to feel like when things aren't going well, or when life gets tough, we did something wrong, and therefore we are bad. And I think sometimes we can inadvertently feel that way with just what we preach about, like, hey, we've got a God that we can rely on. We've got so much hope. We've got so many things to look forward to. Like, there's so much good in the world that when it's tough, we look to our own brokenness and we say we did something bad, or we weren't enough. When sometimes, and the Bible says it, like, life is hard. Life is going to be hard. Bad things are going to happen, and it doesn't mean you did something bad, and especially doesn't mean that you are bad or that you aren't enough. Good.
There it is.
Phrasing. There it is. Great.
It's not. We're not living in a world with a karmatic God, right? That's a word, right? Karmatic,
Sure.
Karmatosian God. I don't know. He doesn't deal in karma. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's not like you did this, so now I have to smack you in the head with a stick. It's like, hey, I don't want you to do that because it hurts you. Like, come back to me. That's the God that we have, which I am so thankful for, because just because I did something dumb, that doesn't mean that I have to suffer this punishment forever, because Jesus actually paid the price for what I did, which is very cool. All right, we're going to move on to our final question just so we respect some time here. And then I'll take one last look at the chat. Let's see if there's anything else. But I'd say a lot of people are having a similar general fear right now. The general fear that 2021 is going to suck as much as 2020 did. If you guys have students come up to you and say that, or if you have family or friends, like, what is your advice to them? What are you telling them when they have a very rational fear of, is this year going to be as bad as last year? Am I going to have to deal with the same garbage that I've been dealing with?
I would say, yeah, it might. Because in this world, we will have trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But take heart, because God has already overcome it. And when we can learn to live in a posture of open hands and to not tight-fisting what we want or to try to force our way or to hold on to, well, this is how it should be, and I should be able to play my sports and have prom and do all these things. Well, we can just open our hands and say, okay, God, take what you want and you can give what you want. And we lean into the ride, the roller coaster that it really is when we can have so much more fun. When we let go of the handlebars, we raise our hands as we're coming down the mountain, that's when it's exciting and fun. When we're gripping it and fearing for our lives, that's less fun, because God is going to do what he's going to do anyway. There's going to be struggles no matter what. No matter if the pandemic goes away, no matter if everyone gets $1 million in stimulus money, no matter what, there's going to be something that happens. There's going to be hardship. There's going to be difficulty, whether it's a worldwide thing or not. Like it's going to be there. And so my encouragement would be lean in, lean on God, open your hands. Unless you're clinging on Jesus, that's the only thing that you should cling on to, and let go of control, because God is the ultimate person who should be in control anyway. And it's going to be so much better when we can just cling on him and rely on him and allow him to carry us through whatever difficulties come, because they will, but he's already overcome it and he's on the other side of it and he's going to carry you through it. So don't worry about it. Don't be afraid of tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. Just focus on today and what you can do best today. Cling to Jesus and do the best you can with what you have. And that's all you can do. And that's how you're going to get through it the best that you can, looking for the positives, focusing on the good, focusing on the blessing that came out of this past year and what could come out of next year. I know this past year has sucked for a lot of people and been really difficult, but let's look at the good that came out of it. Let's look at the rest we were able to have. Let's look at the family time people were able to experience, the reliance on God to provide for our needs, for our food, for everything that he was able to do through it is so much more satisfying when we focus on the good as opposed to the negative, the bad, the loss, things that we didn't get, but focusing on what we did have in return and looking for the future in that and focusing on that is going to be the best way to get through any year, regardless of what it holds.
That's good. I think I would say, and I would agree with 100% of what you were talking about, and even just focusing on the positives and watching out for, I just lost the word. What's when you get down
it's
and
pronounced bees.
Bees. Yeah, watch out for bees. Cynicism. Cynicism. Watch out for cynicism. Because when you get into that mindset of, it's bad, it's all bad, everything's going to be bad, like you get so down into that darkness of cynicism to where that starts affecting different parts of your life. And so, focus on the good. What can you do to not add to the hysteria, but to maybe make 2021 better for somebody else, and in turn make that better for yourself? But watch out for just the thought process that takes you down to a place where nothing's good anymore, or you're just frustrated with the world, or because you're frustrated with this, that makes you frustrated with your family and your friends. And man, we got to make sure that we can compartmentalize some stuff that we can be mad about 2021, and we could be mad about COVID. But then we do have to figure out how to push past that and recognize that God is in control. We are still here. We still have to do each day. And so how are we going to do it? Again, God gives us an amazing thing called free will. So it's up to us how we choose to do this. Are we going to do this in a way that will create peace for others, or are we going to do this in a way that will be cynical for ourselves and try to milk as much of the selfish ambition that we have for this year out of it and still end up feeling like we accomplished nothing? So it's up to us.
I'll never forget being one of our first weekends. We were back at the campus, and a student came up, and it was a fifth grader, I want to say, and they're like, 2021 is the worst year ever. I was like, guys, wait, let's talk about this. It's actually not as bad as you're saying it is. And they listed out all these amazing things that happened. And I know for me, like, I can say 2020, I almost called it 2021, is an awful year. Like, we had family get sick from COVID. We had lost unrelated to COVID. It was just stressful in general. Like, let's just call it out. It was not the best year. It's going to go down in history, and I cannot wait to read the history books in 40 years about this and see that it was like TikTok blew up like nobody's business. Washington Post is, by the way, my favorite channel. If you haven't seen it, it's a newspaper where a guy makes TikToks. But for me, as I stop and I think about it, like if we focus on 2021 and we say, let's just write down maybe one good thing that happens that God just clearly pointed out, that God created this and God kind of knit this together. And today I was just able to rest, or today I was able to do a Zoom call with family, or today school was open and that was a win. I think we're just able to focus and say, man, 2021, nope, it is not the senior year I expected. Nope, it's not the freshman year I expected. I did not get to go on the vacation. And we can mourn that, but then we can say, how do we have a really awesome year within the limits that it's been created? And then all of a sudden that fear goes away because we realize that, hey, it's still going to be a really great year. Just going to look a little bit different, and that's okay.
That's good. Even keeping like a journal of those things that you're thankful for. So when you look back on 2021, all you're going to remember is the good things you wrote down.
Yeah, and that really, like, that's the positivity and optimism is a skill to practice. It's a muscle to build. The same way as we've been building our cynicism muscle for a long time, so that's what we see. But you can shift your perspective, and it actually takes practice. It's like working out at the gym. You don't want to do it, but the more you do it, the more you're going to see the positive. So that's what actually on New Year's Day, my wife and I, we sat down and we just made a list of everything that we were thankful for, all the cool stuff that happened in 2020. And as we were talking, like at first we started talking like, yeah, I guess, well, this happened. That was cool. Like, oh yeah, well then this happened. And like the more we talked about it, the more things just started coming. And it turned from 2020 sucked to like, dude, 2020 was cool. Like we had a lot of fun. Like I sent out 4 chia pets the other week to students. Like when else would I do that? That's so cool. And so there's so many ways that we've been creative. There's so many ways where when all the things that we've taken for granted were stripped away, what comes down, what we're left with is our core, is what's important. And so I think we've stripped away what has made us comfortable, and in exchange we've gotten real, and we've been authentic, and we've gotten close. Where right now we're streaming YouTube from our houses. Like, when do you see your youth leaders' houses? This is all you're going to see. We're not going anywhere else.
You're not invited.
You're not invited. But yeah, I think it's been a year that has been hard, but it's been a year that's been real. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about 2021, I think about what are the values that I've learned in 2020 that I can take into 2021. Now that I've really recognized what's important to me, what can I not live without, what's most important to me, how can I celebrate those things in 2021? What's something I can put on my calendar that, COVID or not, I can look forward to and get excited about? Where can I look to see, like, hey, I think God's going to do something big here. I think God's going to do something big in this person's heart. Or maybe I'm just praying and saying, hey, God, who needs me in 2021? Because really, the antidote to fear is thinking less about yourself and more about loving others. Love is a weapon. So I'm excited to see how we can use love in 2021 to reach more people, to love more people.
That's great.
It's exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm fired up now. I started talking, I'm like, 2021, but now I'm excited.
Last thing I'll say is just something that we all have said over the course of tonight. And that's just, how can I grow closer to Jesus in 2021? And I think that's going to make your 2021, unbelievable, is when we grow closer to Jesus, when we can say, hey, in 2021, I got closer to the Savior, to my God who cares about me, who would do anything for me. And I was able to build my relationship with him. I think that's something that is, obviously, you can't put a price on something like that. And so how do we grow closer to Jesus this year? But hey, I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for being on. Thanks for doing our first ever HSM Chat. And
by the way, you called it HSM Talk like 3 times when you opened up.
What is it called? HSM Chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I said HSM Talk. Whoops. Welcome to HSM Talk Chat, where we chat about talking and talk about chatting. Please let that be the tagline. That's got to be somewhere. But yeah, thanks to you guys for watching. We appreciate all your comments. If we did not get to you, I'm so sorry. I was trying to navigate between the comments and stuff, but keep leaving them, keep asking good questions, and we hope to see you back here next Sunday. So that's it. Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
See ya.
See ya.